Bom dia, Portugang, to the bime. This, well, in news that I'm sure will shock nobody, this is over a third of Portugal's wildfires this year were started by arsonists. Let's check it out.
A's good, A's good, A's good, A's good. Wicked. It's Portuguese good.
All right, before we get into it, I noticed that many of you who enjoy my content still haven't gotten around to subscribing. It costs you nothing to subscribe, but it really, really helps me out. So go ahead and smash that subscribe button. Go on, smash it. And if you don't,
that's ignorant.
All right, let's get into it. Okay, so just checking out the news today, and it seems that preliminary investigations have shown what won't be a surprise to most people here in Portugal, that over a third of this year's wildfires were in fact arson, caused by arson. And I imagine that a lot of us are going to be also surprised by the fact that that's so low. I think most of us probably think that it's more than 30% or more than a third. And also, in fact, that this is really being reported openly. I think this is something that in recent years, many of us have felt has been underreported and not really spoken about, is just how many of these wildfires are caused by arson. But anyway, let's go and check out the article. All right, so this is thanks to the Portugal resident. We can see here a picture of a brave bomberos standing in front of the fires. So there we go. So the headline, and this is by Natasha Don, and as always, a link to this story will be in the show notes of this video. So arson behind more than a third of Portugal's wildfires this season. So preliminary study confirms perennial scourge. Over a third of the forest fires recorded this year were caused by arson, Minister of Internal Affairs Margarida Blasco confirmed today, revealing that almost 50,000 hectares burned in the Viseu district alone. And just so you're aware, the Viseu district is just north of where I live, and I did actually make a video, possibly the first video I did this year on wildfires was up near Viseu. And the other day I drove up to Leroy Merlin in Viseu from where I live in Oliveira do Hospital. And it's quite amazing. The whole landscape is completely burnt out in the area between where I live and Viseu. I mean, it's just terrible to see. And yeah, a lot of the villagers up there were very, very lucky. You can see the flames came right up to the edges of the village. And when I say lucky, we have to remember that there's luck, and then there's the bombeiros, the firefighters, you know, who worked so hard to save those villagers. So addressing the Parliamentary Committee on Constitutional Affairs, Rights, Freedoms and Guarantees, Ms. Blasco told MPs that there is currently a preliminary survey of how arson offences were committed and by whom. According to the survey, 35% of fires recorded this year up until 2 days ago were caused by arson and responsible for 79,118 hectares of burnt area. In addition, 28% of the fires, which totaled 20,950 hectares, were caused by burnings illegal during the summer months, but still undertaken by certain landowners, and 15% were accidental and 9% were reignitions. So looking at this one, 28% of the fires were caused by burnings, illegal burnings. Now, I suppose it's different to arson, and that the intent wasn't exactly the same. But to me, it's a form of arson, isn't it? We're all well aware. I mean, who doesn't know in Portugal during the summer months that burning is illegal? And even during the time, for example, like now, we can't really do burnings until I think it's October 31st. But even at the run up to summer, we have to book burnings. And I have, to be fair, found a few of my foreigner pals who haven't known about that, and I've had to help them book burnings. But I think there's a level of common sense that most people have, that it's not a good idea in the middle of summer to burn on your land here. But obviously some people do. In my mind, it's kind of arson, even though the intent isn't there. What do you think about that? Let me know in the comments. The district with the highest number of forest fires this year was Porto, with a total of 1,390. Ms. Blasco added that Viseu had the largest burnt area, 49,558 hectares, followed by Aveiro, around 27,000 hectares, and Porto, 20,217 hectares. This is provisional data that is still being pre-validated in the sense of full confirmation, she said, noting that given this data, we intend to investigate to see in what terms these figures exist, what the intention was, whether it was intentional or negligent. In this regard, the minister also said that a multidisciplinary team had been set up, including the PSP and GNR, which carry out outreach and surveillance actions with the judicial police. At the hearing requested by the PS and PCP, Margarita Blasco did not give a figure for the total area burnt this year. According to the European Copernicus system, forest fires in the third week of September alone consumed around 135,000 hectares, bringing the area burnt this year in Portugal to almost 147,000 hectares, the third largest in a decade. Every year, the country suffers forest fires, the areas interchanging, and always the scourge of arson is prevalent, hence the Prime Minister's declarations last month. Okay, so there you have it, guys. Something that we haven't really seen reported so openly in the past, I think. So they're saying over a third of the fires are deliberately lit. And I'm just really interested to hear from you guys what you think about how we could tackle that. I'm not really sure what the penalty for arson is in Portugal, but I do feel like it's really attempted murder. In my view, and of course, if anyone is killed during an arson attack, is it an arson attack? Is that how we call it? Then it should just be murder, I think. But what do you guys think? I mean, I honestly think that if someone deliberately and willfully sets a forest fire with the intent, so I'm not talking about the accidentals, and I'm not talking about people doing burns that get out of control, although I do think that those also have to be treated very seriously. But I think these arsonists really need to be banged up for life, to be honest. It seems to me to be that serious, especially in Portugal, which has suffered so greatly and continues to suffer greatly every year as a result of these arson attacks. So let me know in the comments what you think. And I just want to briefly talk about another story that I saw in the Resident. Just let me, which I think really ties into this story. And that is this one, that Parliament moves on strengthening status of firefighting profession. And I think a lot of us, especially if we come from, for example, the UK, where our firefighters are paid quite well, actually. I'm sure there's some firefighters who might get angry at me saying that, but I mean, compared to Portugal, I actually Googled it before this story, and that some of them are paid less than 700 euros per month, and the ratio of volunteers to actual paid firefighters is just amazing. So considering that they are considered to be national heroes, and there's monuments to bombeiros or firefighters all over the country, it seems ridiculous to me that they're so badly paid. So let's have a look at this story. So Parliament moves on strengthening status of firefighting profession, again by Natasha Don. Thank you, Natasha, for this. And it's in the Portugal Resident. And again, there will be a link to this story in the show notes. So 1 week on from angry protests outside Parliament, MPs act. A week on from angry scenes outside Parliament, where furious firefighters railed against the lack of consideration for their profession, Parliament has started to act. Yesterday afternoon, MPs gave their general approval to recognising the profession of firefighter as one of risk and rapid wear and tear, and to strengthening its social status, with all parties pledging to seek consensus in committee stages in order to enhance the profession. The proposals were included in 2 PCP bills and approved by Chega, Bloco de Esquerda, PCB Livre, and PAN, with abstention by PSD, PS, Iniciativa Liberal, and CDS. At the end of voting, parliamentary benches stood up and applauded dozens of firefighters, some in uniform, who had been watching the debate from the public galleries. During MPs' interventions, PSD's Jose Antunes, dos Santos stressed that the government this week had announced the creation of a working group to prepare a proposal for a career benefits, perks, and training for volunteer and professional firefighters. The creation of the working group will be the start of a process that we want to be quick, effective, and structural in order to give firefighters and the country better solutions than those presented by the PCP, he explained, suggesting the communist bill was motivated by a populist and electioneering logic, wiping the slate clean of the very little work they did during the Geren Concha, the time period in which the PS Socialists governed with the support of left-wing parties, which have all since suffered heavily in the polls. PS Deputy Andre Rijo said it is primarily up to the government to push through legislation to make changes to the careers and conditions of public administration professionals, stressing that he hopes the working group presented by the executive will give a favourable outcome to the legitimate demands of Portuguese firefighters. He too criticised the PCP's legislation, saying PS draft resolutions in the past have been better, but recognised there is an urgent need to make improvements to firefighters' socio-professional conditions. So essentially, this is why PS was voting the way it did. Ditto Chega, whose leader Andre Ventura pointed out that it didn't matter who had proposed the bill. This was something that needed to be approved here in the House of Democracy and now. All other parties gave varying speeches saying much the same thing. The time has come to face up to firefighters' demands as thoroughly legitimate and long, some would say scandalously, overdue. Yeah, so there we go. Strong words from people who are in support of the Bombeiros. And about time too. I think most of us here in Portugal would definitely support any moves to improve the situation of our Bombeiros. They really are national heroes. And I can definitely say, as someone who lives here in central Portugal, and, you know, every year we go through this where we see the smoke and we sort of in fear, really, thinking, is the smoke going to come and hit us or hit people we know? And I think all of us, even I've only been in Portugal for 4 years, and I already know people who've lost property in the last couple of years due to the fires. And I think, of course, the horrors of 2017 still loom large in everyone's memory, the collective memory around here. And then it seems like this year has almost been a repeat of that. Absolutely terrible. So yeah, I don't think we're going to get any arguments from most Portuguese people or people who are resident in Portugal about improving the situation of the Bombeiros. But that's just what I think. I want to know what you think. Please let me know in the comments section down below. As always, be respectful. A few people have commented that sometimes comments get deleted. And I can say to you, I've had this channel for over a year now, and I think in total I've deleted maybe 4 comments, and they were by obvious trolls, or I think in one case it was like racism or something. So this is just something YouTube does, unfortunately, and I don't really know why. But if you do get a comment deleted, please let me know, or have a look and see if there's maybe some keywords that you think the YouTube algorithm might not be happy with, and just maybe rephrase your comment. But anyway, looking forward to seeing those. And I think I'm going to wrap the video up here. If you like this type of content and you're new around here, please consider subscribing. It really, really helps me out. And if you like the video, please give it a thumbs up. Muito obrigado, amigos. Ciao.